Hi all, very good morning. This is Sanjeev. So today I will be talking more about AWS SDK, which is commonly known as Boto 3, and it is written in Python. So title is Python for AWS. I will be sharing a few of the demo as well. It will be just the basics to understand how you can leverage Boto 3 library to do your work in AWS. It can be any kind of automation as it was just told by Sapna, but that was using the whole picture was there. I will be giving only the single picture, like how you can write a single scripts so that in future you can automate all these things. Okay. So this is all about me. I have more than 10 years of experience in web development and application security. Mostly I do threat modeling for various security projects. I deal with secure code review and AWS security as well. And automation using Python is like kind of now become my hobby. So most of the my scripts will be in GitHub, and even whatever the scripts I will be sharing today here, I will be posting it in GitHub as well. So you can connect me through Twitter, LinkedIn, or Gmail. Okay, so let's see. So today I will be covering just before going to Boto 3, why we are going through the Boto 3. So the reason to learn about Boto 3, before that I will be explaining about AWS CLI, and then very brief introduction to Boto 3, and we'll jump towards some of the examples that I have created to make you understand how actually you can use Boto 3. So the examples will be related to this AWS resource inventory or anything related to S3, IAM. So the only thing is, to understand the script, you should know the basics of Python. Not much, but the very basic, like data types, control statements, the functions, and list tuples in dictionaries. If you know till this part, then you are good to go with the script. And from AWS side, I expect like you have AWS free account. If you don't have, please go and create it. Because without that, you will not be able to go through all these demo. Okay. So once you are having this AWS console access, there are so many resources in AWS, but I will be talking more about IAM, EC2, S3, and security group. Okay. So before going to Boto 3, let's learn the basics of AWS CLI. So what is this AWS CLI? AWS CLI is a tool to manage AWS services through your command line. Just like if you're in Linux, you're typing ls, cp, mv, these all Linux commands, right? So the same way you can install AWS CLI, and if you type AWS and any command, it will work just like you are working on some terminal. So there are two types of versions available. If you have, if you install in your machine, it can be Linux, Windows, or Mac. So don't worry about 1.x and 2.x. Both are working good, and I am currently working on 1.x. So this is the AWS command line reference link. Don't worry, I will be sharing this PPT as well. So the basic format that AWS CLI command gives is text, YAML, JSON, or table. The most important format here will be JSON, because when you compare it with this Python thing, there is a Python dictionary, which is equivalent to JSON. So we'll get the output as a JSON, and then we'll work over that AWS dictionary. So that's the reason I will be mostly working on JSON output. Okay, so this is the basic CLI setup. If you have Python, and my script will be on Python 3. So I would say, like, if you're going through this, later you can install Python 3 if you have not installed yet, and you can run the first command. This is like the working command for almost all the machines. Python -m, or if it is a Python 3, then Python 3 -m pip install, and then AWS CLI. Or otherwise, if you want exe files and other package file or a DMG file or different SO file, then you can go through this Windows, Mac, or Linux. So once you have installed it, how you will verify that these things are there, right? So let's see this in code. First of all, you need to figure out which Python you are running. If it is a Python 2, you might need to install Python 3. So as I have installed Python 3 separately, so I have to type Python 3. Done. So this pip comes with Python already. So we'll check if that version is there. It is not there, which means in Python 2, I have not installed pip. So I will go with the pip 3, which comes with the Python 3. So it is working and it is correctly locating this one, right? Now, the same way, like you have installed, let's say pip install AWS CLI. As I have already installed, so I'm not just going to run this command. Okay. So once you have installed this, verify that you have AWS version installed. Let's say yes, AWS version is installed, and Boto Core is one of the example, which is telling like I have installed Boto 3 as well. But you have to install Boto 3 separately. Okay. So just run this command, and with these 4 things, Python 3, pip 3, and then AWS CLI, and with the Boto 3, you are good to go with the scripts. Okay. So now we'll see what all the configuration settings you have to do for the AWS configure. And this is not just for AWS CLI, even your Boto 3 script will work based on your configuration settings in your machine. So once you do AWS configure, there will be 4 things that it will come up: key ID, secret access key, and default region, and the default output. As I said, default output for me will be JSON. So once you run this AWS configure successfully, and if you set up your secret key and access key, then you just need to go to AWS, and you will have 2 files, config and credentials. If you type config, so these are the default region I have set, and default output is JSON. Credentials content I cannot show you, because after that I have to change my secret key. So rather I will just show you one thing here. You see in the square bracket, it is written default. So it is commonly treated as a profile. So what profile is, when you run any script either in AWS CLI or through Boto 3, it will ask like which profile you want to run. Currently I have one profile. You can have different profiles, like you're working, you're a DevOps, or you're a system admin, or you're a developer. Then you will have a dev account, test account, and probably staging account. Some of them you may have production account. So you can create all those different profiles with the different key access. Once you are done with this, we are good to go and to understand this AWS CLI. So AWS CLI command works in this way: AWS options, command, subcommand, parameters. Now, what is this option? So this is an optional one, but as in AWS configure, I have already set up my region and output. So it will take by default. Somewhere it may ask for profile, and you might have seen like AWS-FN version, I have run it now. So this was the option. Now to work on any of the resources, I'm telling it a top level AWS resources means you see S3, EC2, and then CloudWatch, CloudTrail, config. So all these things will be the top command. So you can run AWS and let's say S3, then it will be AWS and command will be S3. Now, what you want to do with the S3, you want to copy some files, you want to list the directories, list the bucket, or you want to download something, you want to create a new bucket, you want to remove that, that will be a sub command. Something like when you type AWS and then coming to S3, and then after S3, you will type CP or RM. Like you want, it's basically RB, removing the bucket, and then make the bucket and sync. Same way, if it is a EC2 command, you can see about describe instances, create tags, or if it is a IAM, you can try to get about the user policy and whatever all the policies are there. User is attached with what policy. So these type of things will be helpful for many cases. Once you are trying to automate few things, it can be security audit, or it can be for any compliance purpose, like the user, you want to just list out all the users, who has not logged in last 90 days, and you want to remove that, or maybe you want to just notify them, and then after 7 days of the notification, you want to remove them automatically. You can do all these things using Boto 3. Okay, so, and if you want to understand more about the command, the help is there. You can type AWS help, which will give you all the commands. And then suppose there is some command that you want to know what are all the sub commands, you just type AWS S3 and help. And if there is a sub command that you want to learn, you can type AWS S3 MV and help. Okay, so let's see how to do that. I assume if it is not visible, I will make it a little bigger. Yeah. So this is how you can get the help. My help will be like, if I want to know what is AWS S3 and then help, what all commands I can run. I mean, basically the sub commands that I can run. So it is CV, MV, and just like all these commands, we have sync, and instead of RM, here we call it RB. Okay. So let's first try to list down all my bucket. So these are my buckets, right? Created on different dates, 2017, and few are the new while I was just creating this course. So now you want to download something, or you want to list down all the files of this one. You can just type AWS S3 and basically ls of. Now, just like you do HTTPS for website, for any kind of S3 URLs, you just type this S3 colon and then this one. So it will list you all the files which is there in this bucket. If you want to download, you just have to type AWS S3 and then CP, and then again AWS S3 video download, and then any of these. So this way it will work. If you want to create something, for example, here it is example of make bucket, and you just write it bucket name. If I have the permission, right? As I have the admin privilege, so I'm able to create it. For example, if you are not having the admin privilege, you just have the S3 get, so you will not be able to create it. Now you can do two things. Either you are doing some kind of testing with the S3 bucket, you can run these commands and can try to know like what all the privileges you got with your AWS CLI account, right? So as I have created it, let's try to get it again, AWS S3 ls, and then I'll run this command and we'll see if this bucket is there. Yeah, so it got created just now, right? So I will just remove this bucket. Okay, so we are good with that. So there are many commands you can run, and if you have not given any default output there, by default it will be text. Otherwise, you can write -i output JSON, or if you want some kind of table format, you can write that table format as well. For example, I will give one of the code where it is with the command AWS, maybe DC EC2, describe instances. Let's see what will be the output of this. Don't worry about the syntax and all. So there is no EC2 instances running in US East 2C, or we're running with T2.micro and T3.micro, right? What if I had just type EC2 describe instances without any kind of filter? So there are two things. Once you run the command, sub command, I didn't talk about parameters, right? Here there is a parameters. So these parameters are filter, page size, max items, hyphen query. So what you can do with that is when you are typing hyphen filter, you are telling that once you get all the EC2 instances, just show me the result which has instance type T2.micro or T3.micro and available in US East 2C. Okay. And this will give you all the details of your account. I mean, everywhere. It's in Mumbai or Sydney region or any of the regions. So I have some running instances. That's why I'm getting this type of JSON format. So the output is in JSON. Now in Boto 3, if you see, I mean, if you are very familiar with Python, you will know like this is a kind of dictionary, right? So we'll work with that with the Boto 3. Whatever you are seeing here, the same thing we will do with the program. Okay. So now let's go to Boto 3. As we have already installed pip3 install Boto 3. Now, if you want to work with this library, Boto 3 library in Python script, you just have to type import Boto 3. It is just like importing some library in your Python, just like we were doing in C programming, hash stdio.h, right? Hash unio.h. And if we are from Perl, we were using use warnings, use strict. So similar way in Python you do is a import Boto 3. So now it's an API based object oriented library. So what you will see as an example is if you have imported this, you can directly call Boto 3 and you can call its resources. So basically it's a dot client, or there is something called dot resource. I will tell you in the next slide what is the difference between this client and resource. With this Boto 3 dot client, you are creating an object where like now after that with this client, you can call any of the functions which is available with Boto 3 with that resource name. So how to know that? Just type AWS Boto 3 and then whichever document you want to work. For example, I want to work on this. So you will get all these links and then go to client. You will see the code snippet is also there. These two lines are most important. And then once you are there with client, now you can call any of these functions by saying client dot this function. We'll see some of the example. I will try to show in a while. Yeah. So this is the basic difference with client and resources. And most of the time, if you're going to work with this Python automation for the AWS thing, you will be using client because it is one-to-one with AWS Service API, and it is having all these service operations which is supported by AWS. So it's basically a low-level AWS service access. But if you want to suppose create a bucket, and you don't want to go with all the details like which reason, which bucket name, and you don't want to fill all these things, so you can just call resource. Just like boto3.client, you can run boto3.resource. We'll have this example as well. So resource is basically a higher level object oriented API, where the client is a low level object oriented API. And it exposes Boto core client to the developer. That's the reason most of the time I will be using client. And the reason majority of the time people don't use resources, it doesn't provide 100% API coverage of AWS resources. Okay. So now we will see one of the examples. We'll start with the IAM. It's like identity access management, where you will have all the users on board in your AWS account, and you will add some groups, some policies. So I understand, I'm just assuming like, basics of AWS where like what is IAM and how to create the user, right? I will try to show that in a console as well. So if you go to, if you are logged in and you go to this IAM dashboard, which you can easily anyways go from here, or you just type it here, or you will get it in security identity compliance, right? So once you are in IAM, you'll see lots of things, right? Groups, users, roles, policies. Now, I would just want to know how many users are there through the command line or through the program. So which policies are assigned to their user role, or what all the permissions they have, right? So for those things, I don't have to come to console, and you might, or you probably will not get console access. For example, if you're just a developer, your DevOps team will give you only AWS CLI access. and maybe if only EC2 access. So you will not be able to work on S3 or any of the things, or you will not be able to see even the IAM page at least, right? So you will not know like how many users are there in your AWS account. But so now we'll see some of the example here. I have actually okay. So I was just creating this repo so that I can upload this repo in GitHub very soon. So let's say we'll go with one example. Before running that, I'll just try to explain what is there. So it's again very simple. Just import Boto3 and then Boto3.client. Those two lines which I've shown you in the document. And after that, what you want. So now here is, the programming concept comes. Like in CLI, you cannot do. I mean, you can do with the hyphen filters and the hyphen queries, but it will be really tough. And what if you want to do it continuously or repeatedly for 100 times, 500 times, or you want to do on some event or basically at some particular time. So that time, this Boto3 will be very helpful. And so here I'm just trying to get all the account authorization details, right? So I will get in a JSON format. Basically, it is a dictionary. By default, it returns a dictionary. So IAM account details data type will be dictionary. And I'm just printing the raw one. But the raw one will not be useful, right? Because suppose your job is just to show like what user ID they have, what is the ARN, what group they belong to, and what are the policies, and when it got created. Or maybe you can add one thing like when the password was lastly used, right? So that time, as it was a dictionary, in that dictionary, there is a user details. Inside user details, you will see username, attach manage policies, and with this username you have all these things. Now you will say like how to know like if these are there or not, right? So it's very simple. If I run the script, I can very well explain that. Let it run the script, and how many users we have will know. Yeah. So see this junk kind of things, right? This was the first raw material that we got, and we don't want all the information. Oh my gosh, so much information was there, right? So below we wrote this one, but how we came to know that this is what there is? So we'll see that. If you see here, it is like S3 list all my buckets. I mean, in S3, what all privileges that guy has. In Redshift, what all the privileges that guy has, right? So who is that user, right? So you will know all these details here. And let's say like once you are going like get user policy, right? I am get user policy is there. So instead of going through this one, I came to know that, okay, what is the basic string for user ID or basic string for policies and groups. So I created it here, and these are the users: Hari, Jassi, Mahesh, Prithvi. There are many users. With this user, this is the user ID. This will be helpful if you want to delete this particular user, or you want to do any kind of manipulation with this user. So user ID will be helpful. Now this user is in group S3 read only and EC2 full access. So this guy cannot get any CloudTrail or config details or anything related to VPC and other than that of S3 or EC2. In S3, he has only read only. So he cannot create a bucket, right? All these admin tasks he cannot do. But in EC2, he can do everything. I mean, he can create, or he can, terminate or stop anything. Now this guy has again the same one, full access, but this person is having only read only, right? Now suppose you are doing kind of security assessment. You got this one. Okay, he is in group S3 read only, but there is one policy attached to it, to this user. This is administrator access, which means even he is not in this group, he is able to do this administrator access. So we need to confirm if it is like by mistake, or again, as Avinav was writing in the chat, like it can be some kind of security misconfiguration, right? It can be security misconfiguration. So this way you will be able to easily figure out what are all the policies are there, if that user is allowed for that policy or not. For example, there will be like Mahesh-dev or Mahesh-staging-dev, for example. The name will be like that. And he will have the prod access. Then it is a bad, right? So that type of policies you can check. So this was one of the example. Let's see the second example, which is again same way to be. Now in this script, I'm creating a user. The username is Jeff Bernard, and then I'm just updating the username actually from Jeff Bernard to Bernard Shaw, and then I'm deleting this user, which is Bernard Shaw. So we'll see if this script is working for me. As I have admin access, I will run this to be. And you see how fast it can be. I mean, I'm not going to the console, and it is doing all these things. Okay, an error occurred while creating this. Okay, I might have run this script before, so it might have created already, right? We'll see. It got deleted now. It created a user, right? And the error is telling the specified username is invalid. It must contain alphanumeric character. Okay, so the name that I gave here, a username, should not have a space, right? So hyphen. So you will get a very nice error to understand like where your fault is. And let's say here again, there is a username. I'm creating Bernard. Oh, sorry, this is VIM. Let's go to this and so let's run it again. Done, right? So it created a user. Below is the result. Jeff Bernard created. It says user ID, ARN. This is the created date. So here it looks like jumbled, but when you print it with this created ID, I mean, it's a dictionary, right? So you can go to user, and then in user you type create date. You will get a nice format date, right? So this way, again, I updated the user as well. And now I deleted the same user which I updated here. So here you got the details, but here you will just get a response data with the 200 status. 200 means yes, it was successful. Okay. I think I'm done with IAM. We'll go to another one. So S3 bucket management. I mean, you can create a bucket, you can list all the bucket, you search if that bucket is there or not, you can upload a file. So if you are doing all these 7 steps through CLI, you have to write at least 7 commands, right? And probably whatever the format you want or whatever the result you want to save it somewhere, you might not get it, right? So, but here I have one script which I just got it from AWS Labs. I will just run this script, Python 3, 4. Am I in the right path? Yeah. So it will do everything. I mean, so now creating a new bucket with name, with a proper UUID. So it's very hard to guess. I mean, there will be no one. I mean, it will be very tough to even brute force, right? So I've just added UUID and then it created. Now uploading some data on that with this file name. So in that bucket, I'm creating an object there. And now you can type this URL to download the content. This is a pre-signed URL. So again, I had to run again AWS CLI command, right, to get the pre-signed URL. So with the code, I'm very easily doing that. And then if I'm entering it,
Sanjeev, sorry to interrupt you. I
Yeah.
think we have typed on the chat also.
Yeah.
Can you please increase the font? Can you just
Okay.
zoom it?
Let me
Actually, we
see if
tried not to
we.
disturb you and post it on the chat, but I think we had to do it.
No problem. Is it okay now? But I think it's taking time. I have created it and I have actually increased the font size.
Okay. I hope it's fine for everyone. Meanwhile, you can continue. If there's anything, we'll let you know. Thank you.
Yeah, sure, sure, sure. Okay, so now you see like it created, and now I'm using resource API. Just I was explaining, right? Boto3.client, Boto3.resource. I'm using the resource API and getting what is the bucket name and what was the file there, this file. So what was the content of that file? So this is a binary content, that's why it is B is there, and it was last modified on this date. So now again, I'm deleting the particular bucket. So it deleted the file as well. So first it deleted the file and then it deleted the bucket. Okay. So this was the example related to S3. You can do anything related to this. Rather, I will go with something which might interest you from the security perspective. So I have so many scripts, but let's see this security group thing. I want to know how many unused security groups are there or orphan security group. Why to know about orphan security group? Again, same thing. If some audit happens or it's like a security assessment where it is telling like if your security group is not attached and if it is below 5 to 10% of overall security group that you have with your account, it's fine. But if it is more than 5 or 10%, that also in production, that's basically a compliance issue, right? So what we'll do is we'll see how many security groups are there attached with different resources, like how many security groups are assessed with EC2, RDS, VPC, and then Elastic Load Balancer, as it has two versions, right? ELB and ELB version 2, and then display it in such a way so that you can just copy paste and show it to your higher management, or you can put that in your report. Now here in this example, now you're getting that I have tried to write kind of command based script. So once you do this, it is asking for region -r, and we need to pass out some region. So I will pass out US-East-1, and this is the only mandatory one, because you see in underscore bracket it's optional, and profile is also optional. Now we'll see this. Or rather, you could have done one thing like instead of giving one single reason, get all the regions and loop through all the regions to figure out like what are all the security groups you have in all the regions, not just in US East 1, in US East 2 as well. And there are many places. I think it ran, and yeah. So the last one is this output. We'll see what is that output is telling. Yeah, you see in US East 1 region, I have 3 security groups which are not used. So what all the scans we did through this script? Total number of EC2 instances evaluated 2. Public EC2 instances, both have the public IP. So this one, there is no load balancer, so 0. Public load balancer, again 0. Network interface, so it is with the 2 different VPCs, so it is telling that. And I have one RDS, so it evaluated that as well. So total security group were 7, out of which the security group in use are 4. Okay, so but the total number of orphan security group is 3, which is like 43%. So if you just copy paste this in your report and can tell them like, okay, you have to reduce it, or you have to basically look over there, what are all the details, what it is doing, right? So the another script that I'm thinking is can be to understand like, okay, is there any security group which is having publicly accessible apart from 80 or 443 port, for example, port 22. If port 22 is open to the world, you know what kind of in danger zone your account are, right? So I have to see if I have that example. um, I think yes, this one is there. Or I'll just go with this script, Python 3 6b, sorry, 6a, right? Yeah. And if I run this script, see, you should pass some argument and your profile type. As I was showing you there, right? In AWS configure, there is um, something like default profile, right? So I will run this script again with the profile that I have, which is default. I'm just waiting for the output. What it is doing is it is going and checking all the security groups with your EC2 instances, any other instances it has. And then it will capture all the ingress, outgress rules with the security group name. Okay, and what are all the public IPs available there? Because we are more interested towards public IPs. And if it is any kind of public IP is related to your office network, your personal home address with the /32 CIDR range, we are fine. But if it is 0.0.0, yes, then there is an issue. So with this script, you will be able to figure out that one. Let's say what file it's saved. Okay, so this is the file. You see, it went there. It is looking for all the security group name. So there is a security group name called Kali in Mumbai region. So which is like there is ingress rule with port 22 with only one IP, and this is probably my IP. Okay, so this is fine, but I'm just interested to understand port 22, all the port 22 here, and then to check what is the IP address, IP range. Okay, and that ingress IP range. So ingress IP range here again, there are one. I'm good with that. Again, this IP, I'm good with that. This can be some corporate range. Here, I'm not good with that. Put 22, again this one. So this is with the launch wizard tool. Now you can, again, automate as Sapna was telling, right? Once you got this, run this script, get this file, take this file as an input. Again, get from all the security group name till this space as one chunk. In that chunk, look for port 22. And with the port 22, if it is IP range in ingress, if the IP range is 0.0.0, use SNS service, notify your admin, notify someone else, right? Or proactively, you can just detach this security group, or even you can delete this security group, right? So you can do, I mean, all these things are possible with this Boto3 script. Even you can attach, you can find all the security groups that are attached with the EC2 to understand like what are all the security groups we are following. But I will not go with this. There are many such examples like that. I mean, you can get the public IPs of all the ELBs because ELB doesn't give the IP address. So at the runtime only, you need to know the IP address. Okay. So once you are good with this basic and with the basic hands-on, what you can do next with this Boto3 framework. So you can actually automate everything So there is a lab even from the AWS official lab where they're talking more about AWS security automation. And there is a course even in SANS, which is related to this, automating information security with Python. There is a book which you can read, or there are video tutorials you can go through, like how you can automate AWS CA's benchmark audit, how you can automate some of the AWS exploits, or there is flaws.cloud or flaws2.cloud, some CTF for AWS, how you can automate that CTFs using Boto 3, right? Or you can make some commands or a proper tool like already available Pacu, Prowler, Scout Suite, right, for the AWS exploitation and security assessment. So these are the resources through which I went before creating the slides. And image credit goes to Noun project, and the content credit with the AWS labs and Boto 3 documents, official one. So I'm done with this. If you have any question, you can ask. And meanwhile, I will say if you have something, you can tweet about this presentation. You can contact me in a LinkedIn if you have any further questions. And you can write all your questions in my Gmail ID also. So with this, thanks from my side, and thank you OWASP Bangalore and Null Bangalore for arranging this online meet with this tough time.